during well production. As you've heard and you will hear from speakers today, waste generated through the extraction of oil and natural gas, including production brine, can contain a number of pollutants such as chemicals, metals, and organic compounds that are harmful to human life and the environment, and excess salts that can corrode infrastructure and harm aquatic life and vegetation. And waste, particularly from extraction activities in the Marcellus Shale, can also contain naturally occurring radioactive materials such as radium-226 and radium-228, which are also present in production brines and contributing to serious health effects, including cancer. The New York State Department of Environmental Conservation, or DEC, currently allows the use of production brines in low volume, vertically fracked gas and oil wells and natural gas storage facilities to be spread on roads for de-icing, dust control, and road stabilization. Not properly controlled, this waste can run off into adjoining property and ultimately can contaminate rivers, streams, and underground aquifers that feed local drinking water supplies. All anyone wishing to use this waste material for road spreading has to do is to apply to DEC for permission, also called a beneficial use determination, or BUD. Such determination converts what is legally considered waste material, which is required to be handled and disposed of in specific ways required by law, into a non-waste that can then be reused. These BUDs, when granted, authorize multiple applications for brines, particular roadways, and those applications can vary quite a bit, from 10 applications per season to 2 to 3 times that, depending on the BUD. And these BUDs do not appear to have any expiration date. Riverkeeper submitted Freedom of Information Law request to DEC seeking information about beneficial use determinations. It is approved, allowing the use of production brine and natural gas storage brine on the state's roadways. In response, DEC provided us with documents indicating that since mid-2011, road spreading of oil and natural gas production brine and brine from natural gas storage has been approved in portions of at least 40 municipalities in 9 western New York counties: Wyoming, Erie, Colorado, Chautauqua, Genesee, Niagara, Seneca, Allegheny, and Steuben. In addition, the New York State Department of Transportation, Regions 4 and 6, have received approval to spread this brine on state roads in portions of 10 counties: Genesee, Orleans, Wyoming, Monroe, Livingston, Steuben, Allegheny, Chemung, Schuyler, and Yates. And this is a small snapshot from the past 2.5 years. This practice has been going on for quite some time prior to 2011, so this is a small portion. The Riverkeeper also received brine testing results, which were submitted by the applicants at the time of their initial application. These test results showed excessive levels of chloride or salt in both natural gas production brine and brine from natural gas storage facilities. In addition, sample results from brine from natural gas storage facilities and brine from oil production wells revealed the presence of benzene, which is a carcinogen, and toluene, which is been linked to nervous system, kidney, and liver problems. Our review of these BUD documents and DEC's regulations and guidance governing the granting of BUDs for the use of this waste material has raised a number of concerns about apparent limitations in DEC's application and approval process. As set forth in the 2009 memo from DEC, at the time of the initial application, BUD applicants who wish to use oil and gas production brine for road spreading must submit testing results of a representative sample of brine from each well field that will be, over the course of the BUD, the source of the brine to be spread, not from each particular well. And this is really concerning because the level of contaminants can vary from well to well, just from well field, and can also vary over time. In addition, there do not appear to be any uniform requirements for follow-up testing. We only saw in those that were issued to the State Department of Transportation the requirement for annual reports for follow-up testing, which is the after any of those. This is completely inadequate to inform the DEC what contaminants are in brine actually being spread at any particular point in time, as contaminants can vary from well to well and even from the same well over time. And while the memo does require applicants to submit testing results for a number of contaminants, it does not require testing for naturally occurring radioactive materials. Hazardous material may only be present in fracking waste, particularly from and would require the rejection of lead application. Although these standards such as these are posted on the websites of other states with allowed tobacco, such as West Virginia, we have been unable to find publicly available standards specifying how much of each contaminant can be in line that is approved for road spreading in New York, nor have we received such information in response to our Freedom of Information Law request. Finally, although blood recipients are often subject to limitations or conditions regarding the manner and location in which wine can be spread, there do not appear to be any provisions for monitoring or enforcement to ensure that blood recipients comply with those limitations. These and other concerns have prompted at least a dozen New York counties to take action at the local level to protect their citizens. Ulster, Omega, and Tompkins counties have prohibited road spreading of natural gas waste, and Nassau County has prohibited the acceptance of such waste at wastewater treatment facilities. Further, Westchester, Putnam, Rockland, Albany, Erie, Onondaga, Orange, and Suffolk counties have prohibited both road spreading and acceptance of fracking waste at wastewater treatment facilities. We've been involved with a number of these efforts, and I can tell you that many of them did pass with broad bipartisan support at the county level. At the state level, we commend legislators, including Senator Patrick, who's here with us today, who have introduced legislation that would address the improper use and disposal of fracking waste. We commend these efforts and urge the Senate to follow the example of the counties and municipalities leading the way on this issue and enact statewide legislation protecting all New Yorkers as soon as possible. Thank you for the opportunity to address this important issue.
Thank you, Ms. Duvall. Before we release our first panel, do any of my colleagues here have questions? Oh, I see that Senator Serrano has joined us. Thank you for being here. Does anybody have questions for this panel? Senator Kachuk?
I want to thank all of you for your testimony and really appreciate that you wrote it all down because I plan to study it. This is quite in-depth, and I just want to let you know that I really appreciate the effort that went into putting this together. I have a question for Mr. Hahn. Regarding the Auburn wastewater treatment issue, you know, the city had a ban and they had to do the headworks analysis. Now, the waste product or the wastewater that they were receiving, is that mostly from within New York State? But it also included some material from out of the state, from Pennsylvania.
So in my appendix, you can see the firms that were sending the wastewater. That's Appendix A. So those, I believe, are from New York vertical wells. And again, there are like 7,000 production wells currently operating in New York. So that is domestic wastewater. And I did not see, I basically do the same thing, I submit freedom of information requests. And so when I reviewed the data for Auburn, I did not see any out-of-state gas drilling wastewater being accepted. The only facility that I saw accepting out-of-state gas drilling wastewater was Canada.
Okay. And then Auburn is not allowing it to be processed through their wastewater facilities now, according to an article that I read recently. So after the headworks analysis, they concluded that this was not a good thing to do.
That's absolutely correct. And this is a landmark study because this practice, just like the dumping in landfills, just like land spreading, has been going on for years, if not decades, particularly in the areas where these oil and gas extraction activities are predominant. So this is the first time a very detailed study has been done by the municipality's own engineering firm. And they concluded that not only is it not a good thing to be done, they can't accept a drop, nothing, zilch. And the key thing is, in addition, this is, for the first time, I believe, setting a very high bar if a municipality wants to accept this gas drilling wastewater. So as you may know, there is no categorical standard for accepting wastewater at a treatment plant or for dumping its wastewater into the environment pursuant to federal law, the Clean Water Act. Okay, so all various kinds of industrial categories that are regulated, this include oil and gas extraction. So after these data in Auburn came to light in the Drilling Down series in the New York Times, US EPA, to their credit, initiated a categorical wastewater regulatory proceeding, but that's not complete. However, they had very stringent testing and headwork analysis requirements that had never been enforced in New York until Auburn. So thank you, Virginia Wong, the pre-treatment coordinator for Region 2. And I would note that she took action on behalf of EPA after DEC did not. DEC just left a phone message in 2008, yeah, you can take as much as you want. So now, again, this is a very important landmark case that applies not only to other POTWs in New York, but arguably from coast to coast. So I believe that wastewater from gas extraction is the Achilles heel of fracking, because up until now, you've been able to just dump this stuff on roads, dump it into local wastewater treatment plants, and that, again, is not requiring this material. It's very toxic radioactive material to be managed properly. And if it is managed properly, the cost of shale gas extraction is going to skyrocket. And I would also note that it's been mentioned that they're trying to get companies to recycle this material. That is totally improper. About half of all New Yorkers drink water from the ground. And so if you inject this contaminated wastewater back into the ground, you can only do it because there's a regulatory exemption from these very stringent GA, groundwater A, drinking water quality standards in New York. Because so many people, notably on Long Island, drink water from the ground. So we have very strong protections in New York. And finally, after so many years of these issues coming to light, being documented, we're finally getting some traction here. But that is a very critical issue, and that's how today's forum is so important. And Auburn is now going to set a very high standard that hopefully will prevent gas field and wastewater from being accepted into anywhere in New York and maybe in the whole country.
Senator Cruz, go ahead.
Thank you. All three of you did such incredibly technical testimony, and I was reading it as we were going along. It's very scary, being a non-scientist. It's pretty terrifying that this is going into New York's water system through all these different ways. Is there anything equally scary going on from any other activity with to impact our water? Or is like this the scariest? That's not a scientific question, but it's quick.
No,
But I don't think people understand the risks and the dangers that we're already facing. And I was just wondering, are there other ones we ought to be looking at like this?
well, I don't know if there are, but I could make it more scary for you.
Okay, thank you.
Comparing it to another case I have on special counsel in Niagara County. And Niagara County is opposing the building of a new hazardous waste landfill in the county. It's the only RCRA hazardous waste landfill in the state. There is a limit on radioactive material that can come into that landfill. The DEC is supposed to know. And that is slightly, no waste that has radioactivity slightly above background may be disposed in the landfill. That's in glaring contrast to what's going on with these municipal solid waste landfills, where the DEC is saying there's no limit to the radioactivity, the radioactive concentration of the waste being there.
So I invite you to go to toxicstargeting.com. You can type in your address using our internet map server, and you can see what kinds of toxic sites are around where you might live or where you might have concerns. And you're right, you're going to be absolutely shocked. So you'll recall that when DEC Commissioner Pete Grants was fired, it was because of a memo that Stu Ruskin, the Executive Deputy Commissioner, wrote. And he basically told Governor Patterson, if you cut the DEC anymore, we can't protect public health. And that is an incredibly detailed, revealing document. And so the reality is that New York State doesn't enforce the law. I know you're shocked to hear this, but the consequences are we have polluted landfills. These beneficial use determinations are absolutely mind-blowing. You can take petroleum contaminants